Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I am coming back at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In today's video, we're going to continue on with my 15mm Ancient update. And in today's update, I'm going to show you my most recent figures that I've completed, and also a couple of range rulers that I've completed as well. And we'll talk a little bit about the my 15mm Ancient journey. All right, so the first thing I want to show you are these hypaspits. Everything I'm going to show you today is for Alexander's Macedonians. Yeah, you can. These are little big men shield decals. You can find them on the Little Big Men website. I also have a tutorial on how I put the decals on all of the units I'm going to show you today. Okay, so these are the hypaspits. Now, in the MeG army lists, the hypaspits could either be pikemen or long spears, and these are Old Glory hypaspits, and well, most of them. And the Old Glory hypaspits are long spearmen. They're not pikemen. All right, so now there's a couple of figures like this officer, this figure there. Those are all Zeistons. Yeah, Zeiston has a package of generals and foot companions. And I saw this figure there, and I said that would be perfect for my hypaspits. You'll also notice that I put the officers on the very far left file, because that's where they would be in a Macedonian phalanx. We've got the standard right there. Yeah, so these are all 40mm by 20mm bases. There are 8 bases so that I could field this in a Maximus army as well. Okay, so let me show you the next unit. All right, here is a foot companion unit, and you'll be able to identify the units by their shields. I basically made sure that the shields were, to help me identify which units are which. I also, 90% of their armor colors are going to be uniform, but there might be, in a couple of these different units, you might see a figure or two that might be out of place. But that's perfect. That's kind of the way I wanted it to be. Now, one thing you'll notice is the helmet colors. Each unit, okay, I used a variety of different helmet colors for all the units, but I gave each unit a dominant helmet color, like one half of their helmets will be that color. And in this unit, it looks like it's a red helmet color, because you'll see red on almost every stand. You'll see red on every stand. Looks like there might even be nope, just one red on every stand. Okay, so that's only 1/4 of these guys. So maybe they're not the red ones. Okay, but that's fine. And I used like bronze as the majority of the helmets, but you'll see some white, you'll see some purple, you'll see some red and yellow and blue. Those are the main colors that you'll see. And you'll see a lighter purple and a darker purple throughout these pikes now, or throughout these foot companions. These pikes are wires, obviously. All right, let me keep going. Let me get to the next unit. All right, this is the next unit. This one actually, I do believe, has more red helmets than that other one. That other one had more of the bronze helmets. Um, in this unit, you'll notice that there's not only a standard, but there's also a musician. I think my last one had a musician, and he was further back in the unit. There is a figure right there in the middle that is a Zeiston figure. The officer is a Zeiston model. Now, the musician and the standard are from the Macedonian Old Glory Command Pack. Now, I do want to point out that I'm doing these Macedonian foot companions as the core unit or the core units of my Macedonian army, but it's going to be a minute before I finish the the horse companions and the officer and the camp and all that stuff. It's probably going to be a week before I start on those because I have some work that I need to do for the store. So there will be a break. I'm going to be taking a break from the my Macedonian army. All right, let me get the next. Okay, and this one is the black Macedonian star. All right, give me a second to bring out the next one. Okay, and this one is the red Macedonian star. And again, you'll notice a couple of Zeiston officers. Actually, I think this officer here is actually part of the Old Glory set. This guy's Zeiston. And I noticed the Zeiston models are just a little bit chunkier, but that might just be this pack of generals and foot companions. These shields are extremely domed, and so I would recommend checking out my Little Big Men applying decals video I put out, and I'll show you how I did it. Um, yeah, you'll see that there's a standard, a musician, as well as I've got these two officers here. And then it looks like yellow might be the primary color of helmet on this one. I'm just kind of taking a look and checking it out and make sure. Now I did all of these guys on 20 millimeter depth bases, 40 millimeters wide, 4 figures to represent the close order infantry. If I was to do it on, and I thought about this while I was gluing them down to these 20 millimeter bases. If I was to put these on 15 millimeter bases, like maybe Field of Glory would want me to do, these pikes would be so close together that I would have to like put them between each other's shoulders, or I'd have to organize my units in a way that it would only go together one way or something like that. But luckily, I could actually move these figures as it sits with a 20 millimeter depth base. I put the pikemen themselves toward the back edge of the base, which would help with balance, to prevent it from tipping over because of that pike. Not that there's much weight to the pike, but just to help. And also, it gives more room for maneuverability on the tabletop. So. All right, let me show you the last battle group. All right, and this is my 5th unit. This is the 4th foot companion unit, and you can see the shields are a little bit more fancy. But I wanted a little bit of variety, so I got a couple other shield decals, but I decided to go ahead and use this one. You'll notice that the purple is the primary helmet color in this unit. But again, there's some smattering of other helmet colors in there as well, just to give it that variety look, because the Macedonian hoplite units would not have all been exactly the same. And yeah, this unit looks good as well. You got your couple of Zeiston figures right there. The rest are all Old Glory foot companions or command figures for the standard bearer and the musician. Okay, so my Macedonian foot companions are all 100% complete. My Hypaspits, I'm going to say they're complete, but I could make an alternate unit of pikes. That way I could field them as either pikes or long spears. But that I'm in no rush to do that. I do have the miniature for Alexander, and I've got some miniatures for some other Macedonian generals that I'll be doing those about the same time I do the camp and the cavalry. Plus, I've got some allies. I've got some Indian bowmen and what is it, Rhodian slingers. Um, I have some Balearic slingers, but they're not they're more Greek and less Macedonian. I have agrarian javelinmen, so I look forward to putting like all the sugs together, the cavalry and the generals. But I'm gonna do that after I complete the uh, the World War II vehicles that I'm getting ready to start. All right, now let me show you the tool that I made. All right, guys, now I had built these Field of Glory range rulers. I guess that's for gaps in units or one movement unit, as they call it. And this is a 6, or maybe that's 2 movement units, and this is a total of 6. I don't remember exactly. I noticed that I've got a little 6 right there, and that on the side I put paper and I put heavy infantry and mounted javelins. Like that would be the range for those. Um, I have a few of these, and so I took 2 of them and cut them down to 120 millimeters. So we have 40, 40, and 40. And then I painted them so that you could use it as a, you can use it as a measurement tool on the table, or, and so there's 2 of those. I think they turned out pretty good. I didn't realize that I was basically painting them in Macedonian colors, the red and the yellow. I don't know. Blends in really good with my Macedonian army, but that's okay. All right, now before I let you go, I do want to let you know basically the status of my armies. I have a mid-Republican Roman army, incorrectly based. It's based on 15 millimeter, which you can still use those bases in MeG. It's just that I want to be universal. I want to be correct, or appropriate. So I'm gonna rebase those, but I'm not in a hurry until I decide to actually complete my mid-Republican Romans, because I have something like 5 or 6 units of mid-Republicans, both Praetorian Hastati. They do it as a mixed unit. And then I also have a couple of units of Triarii. So maybe I've got 8, but I don't think I do. I would have to go over there and just check it out. And then I've got a couple of units of Cav and a couple of generals and a couple of units of Velites. But my problem is that I base them up for, or at least I organize them for a Magna army and not a Maximus army. So I'm gonna have to go through and when I go back to my mid-republicans to start to fix them, I will need to flesh out the units to make sure that they are for Maximus. But I'm not in a hurry to do that. My Germans, they're very good. They're set. I think I have 6 or 7, maybe it's 9. 9. Let me think about that. No, I think I have 7 units at the full scale of 9 bases each. And then I've got a couple of units of skirmishers, and then 1 unit of cavalry. So I'm going to have to maybe flesh that out just a little bit more. I think it's pretty good as it is right now. I just want to flesh it out a little bit more. And then I've got half of the Macedonians that I still have to, actually probably a little bit more than half. Well, actually, the cavalry units are going to be a lot smaller, and there's really only like 3 of them. I've got an Agema, a companion, and a Thessalian cavalry. I think I can have 2 Thessalians. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check. But then I'm going to have my Agemas, agrarian javelin men, Rhodian slingers, Indian archers. I also am going to put together some elephants for the unit because if it's a time period where I can have Indian, that's after Alexander goes into India. So if I can have Indian archers, I can have elephants. So I might not do the elephants and the Indian archers because that is kind of a later Alexander. But that's okay. I want to be complete. I want to have a lot of things, and I have enough to do. I have enough figures to do 100 Years' War, English and French army. I think I've got enough, and then with a mixture of Blue Moon, Zeiston, Old Glory, and Forged in Battle. Now, my mid-republicans, I picked up a bunch of allies so I could flesh them out with Campanians, with Samnites, where there's allied hoplites is what they're called, Illyrians. There's a bunch of allies that I can throw together for them. MeG. I'm doing a MeG boot camp. If you're interested in learning how to play MeG, you should check out my boot camp. I'm up to okay, what do? We talked about what's needed for your army. We talked about movement, giving orders and command from the generals. We talked about charging. We talked about formations. We talked about fighting a combat, shooting. We even talked about routes and recovering wounds. Now the next video is on camps, I think, but I don't have any camps finished. I have the bases for the camps, and I have some tents, and I have some camp followers that I was thinking about putting together. But there is this Roman camp that I want to get. It's actually, it's either on the Plastic Soldier Company website or it's on the Boetta website, because Boetta actually has some really cool terrain pieces. Like that's where I got most of my tents from. Actually, was from Boetta. Um, I don't know. So I'm going to put a camp together probably first thing after I do these World War II figures, just so that I can have the camp ready for when I record the camp video for my boot camp. So that means there's going to be about a week break between you see any more ancient videos. Unless I start talking about something completely non-ancient, which a lot of my videos are not all ancient. Something I want to toss out there into the ether, is Napoleonics. As you know, I am a big Napoleonic freak, and I've gone through a bunch of different rule sets, and none of them are really okay. Napoleon's battles was great. Black powder is great, but they have things about them that are lacking for me. Now, after doing during making the videos of the MeG boot camp for ancients, and then going to the MeG website, and I saw that there was a version of this game for World War II, and there's a version of this game for the Renaissance. I was thinking, and I do mean later Renaissance, like 1860, 1870, maybe the Crimean War kind of deal. Not Napoleonics. But I could, if I had that set of rules, which I don't, I could easily convert those rules to a Napoleonic version. And I noticed they use D10s. I was just kind of glancing through it. It sounds like they use D10s, but they still have the black, white, green, yellow, red combination, but those dice, those colors don't equate to the type of dice you roll. They equate to like ranges and how much damage you would do. I don't know. I don't have the rules, so I don't want to guess too hard. But just doing the boot camp for MeG, I had an epiphany probably about a week ago that I could easily take 90% of the MeG rules and intermix it with the Napoleonic rules that I'm writing, picking and choosing, of course, rules that I like best. And I think MeG would work really well because see, this is one of the things I was struggling with, and was command and control and movement for my Napoleonic rules. Not struggling, but flip-flopping on how I wanted to do it. But the MeG command and control is really intuitive and really it has a high fidelity without being extremely difficult. It's actually very easy. Because look at this Macedonian phalanx. That could very easily be a French battalion, right? That could very easily be a French battalion. Yeah, so I don't know. Mine would be a little bit different because I've decided to go away from the single figure. Personally, I'm going to go away from the single figure rank to a base with 2 figures wide and 2 figures deep, a lot like Napoleon's battles. Different scale base, it's deeper actually. It's 20 millimeters wide, so these 2 figures, or these 4 figures, would be the exact same width as two of my bases, right? The depth is a lot different. This is 20, this is a full 40 millimeters, or you could see 40 by 40, like black powder, but mine would be 40 by 30 in depth, because I do 30 millimeter, 20 millimeters across and 30 millimeters depth. I was thinking how combat works in MeG, and of course it's done by the files, and my files would be, instead of 2 files, it would be 3 files, right? Because the figure width would not be, it would only be 6 figures, right? No, it would be 2, 4, 6. Yeah, it'd be 6 figures. So my Napoleonic battalion would be more like that, right? It would still be the 4 ranks, and then 3, but it wouldn't be that deep. It'd be half this depth. It would just look a little bit different. It would look exactly like that if they were deployed in line, right? But there would be not 3 files. I would have 6 files. And I still think that I could do combat by files, right? Melee by files. I could even do shooting by files. And so the shooter would be just rolling 6 dice, or we'd be meleeing with 6 dice. And I think having the default is 2 figures deep, so you don't have to calculate that. But if I had another couple of bases back here, like this file would be 1, 2 bases deep, and I think they could get a bonus in melee, or I don't know. I'd have to go through. I know that melee in the medieval times, the charge and all that, would be a little bit different, but not much, because in the Napoleonic period, you still have bayonets, right? And or even lancers have lances, you know. But you also have shoot and charge, like pylons. Pretty much everybody would do that. They would move up, shoot, and then charge the last few feet or whatever. Last 20, 50 yards or whatever it is. But I don't know. Maybe I base them a certain way, but still require there to be 2 figures side by side, or 2 bases side by side, to be considered a file, right? And the way I would do it to speed games up, because if you watched any of my Marshals and Generals videos, you know that my tenant for my rules is fast, fun, and playable. And so it has to be fast. So I don't want there to be a lot of minutia. I love the fact that I wouldn't have to keep track of wounds, right? Because I was planning on marking bases with wounds, a lot like you do in black powder. And then when you reach a certain amount, then the unit breaks. In MeG, you can apply 1 wound, or you can take 2 wounds, which will remove a base. And I think that is a lot less paperwork or micromanaging or dilly-dallying. And I love the 50% break, or over 50%. Or if you're a skirmisher, it's over 1/3 or 33%, But what I would do is, I know I don't want to go too deep into this in this video because I don't want this video to be extremely long, but I wouldn't do it like that. I would give them a, well, first of all, they're already going to have quality, just like MeG, right? You've got superior and trained and, well, there's trained and drilled is something different, but they've got like superior, average, stuff like that. And that would be your morale, how resistant you are to taking casualties. And then based on that would give you a number of bases that, like a percentage of bases. And it might be like if you're the old guard, maybe you can go down to 2 bases and still live. It's kind of like there's a special rule in MeG called fanatic. So it would be something like that, like the old guard would get like fanatic, or the militia might be a lot like a skirmisher unit where they only take 1/3 their hits and they break. And I love the fact in MeG, when you break, you do affect everybody around you. Okay, that's cool. But when you fall back, there's a variable move, so it's not always the same. And when you fall back, if you burst through your friends, they have a chance to take damage. And remember, it's not actual people getting killed. That's not what that damage represents. What that damage represents is this mob of guys are saying, oh my God, I'm going to die. And they run back through the unit. There are people or individuals in that unit that go, oh crap, if they said they're going to die, then we're going to be next. And then they run off too. So it's not like they actually killed anybody. It's just that they lost combat effectiveness, or they could take a wound, they could just disorder them, or they could actually just lose a stand, you know? So I think that would be really good. I think I can finagle it or tweak it to make it Napoleonic. Okay, final thought before I let you guys go. When I was looking through the MeG website, or maybe I was looking through the clarifications of the rules, there is an errata for the MeG rules. It's not errata, it's really clarifications of what the rules, but it is kind of like errata because it says, oh, this is, what this really means is this and not what you think it means, you know, or whatever. Because they have some really bad typos and punctuations in the MeG rules, or at least the version of the rules that I have. And so back up. They have these errata, and I found one of the errata, or one of the clarifications says, this is the way the rule is currently, but it might be different in Napoleonics. And I was like, what? They were already thinking what I am thinking. So I wonder if, and I looked around the website, couldn't find any Napoleonic version of this rules, but there is a forum that I haven't actually been scouring, but Simon might have made a Napoleonic version or something, and I'd love to see what he has to say about a Napoleonic version. And if he doesn't, then I'm going to make my own. All right, guys. Thanks for coming out and watching this Ancients update with Napoleonic flavor at the end. And I will catch you over a week from now because I've got to paint some World War II guys. All right. You guys take care.